Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of the latest vampire film, Abigail. Now this is a film directed by Radio Silence, the guys that did Ready or Not and Scream 5 and 6. So, just based off of their directing duties so far, I've enjoyed all of their films. I think that Scream 6 is probably their best, their most well-rounded. It gets a bit iffy towards the end, but overall I enjoy their films a lot. And this film stars Alisha Weir, Melissa Barrera, Dan Stevens, Kevin Durant, Catherine Newton, Giancarlo Esposito, Angus Cloud, William Callett, and Matthew Good. And the film follows a group of would-be criminals as they kidnap the 12-year-old daughter of a very powerful underworld figure. And all they have to do to collect their $50 million ransom is watch the girl overnight. But soon, they realise that the little girl that they're locked in with is a ballerina fucking vampire. So the concept of that immediately had me excited for this film. I'm craving a vampire film that is just really back for fucking just blood and carnage. And I was hoping that Abigail would be that. It's not quite there yet. But I still had a good time. So let's get into it. So first of all, if you're going to click off this review in 20 seconds, Alisha Weir. I want you to know that. Watch the film for Alisha Weir. She is ungodly good in this film. Like, she's amazing. She does a lot of the choreography of her on her own, I read as well. So she's like doing all this ballet shit, which just awesomely works with the film. Like, believe it or not, like the ballerina side of things and the vampire side of things. So you've got good fight choreography with, like almost like a musical number where she's like, doing dances and then, ripping people's throats out and stuff like that. She's awesome. She's very witty. She has to say some things that no little girl her age should know what those words are. And it got a lot of laughs from the theatre, so she does a really great job at actually being intimidating and scary and intense while also being really funny, while also being a really good physical performer. She is insanely good in this film and is absolutely the reason that you should watch this film. This film delivers on being extremely gory as well. Now, there's not a huge cast of characters here at all, which is a bit of a shame. So there's like, kind of points where they have to drag the runtime out with characters not dying, but the gore that we do get and the carnage that we do get is fucking insane. Like legitimately entire rooms being caked with blood. It's awesome. I actually was surprised at how funny this film was. Normally with films that kind of like have a bit of a self-aware horror comedy edge, just feel as though they're kind of just having their balls removed a bit. So when they're, going to go really, really hard on the horror, they kind of just pull it back with a little joke. But I would say like 4 out of 5 times the jokes landed for me. So I laughed more than I was expecting. There was some parts in the first act when it was pretty rocky. But when you get into it, and especially Kevin Durant's character and Dan Stevens, those two characters were hilarious. And I thought they were great. And obviously Alisha Weir was hilarious as Abigail as well. And the way all the different characters and the cast members bounced off of each other. The actors all do a very capable job. I think visually the practical effects mixed with the CGI is extremely good. It's not like overtly CGI, but you can tell that a lot of stuff was done practically as well, which was awesome. There are some parts when they just blend really, really well. This is when CGI is used well. And especially, it doesn't matter if some of the effects look a little bit hokey, because the film is silly enough to the point that you're not going to watch it and it's treating itself super seriously and then something just looks a bit goofy out of nowhere. It's a goofy film, and some of the effects really complement that. I think it's like intended to look like that. I don't think there's anything that actually looks bad in this film. So I think the effects side of things was done really, really well. I also love the setting of this film too. I think the house is a really, really cool location. It's kind of just like, a big like mansion kind of thing that they end up getting locked into, and there's all these different passages and ways that they go down, and they get lost, and then they'll barricade themselves inside parts, and everything's got a really old kind of look to it. You can kind of smell the mustiness from some of the, uninhabited rooms that have just been gone for a long time. You've got people with torches going down long dark corridors with all this old artwork. I really, really like the setting. It's got a very kind of gothic setting, and especially with the music that they use. The music that they decide to use is really, really good and really complements that. But unfortunately, that's about where my positives end for this film. I've heard a lot of people with a lot of buzz, really saying that this thing is awesome. It's the resurgence of the bloody mean vampires that we know and love, like from Fright Night and The Lost Boys. And from Dusk Till Dawn's another one that a lot of people are comparing it to. It's not quite that for me. It's definitely not influenced by the Twilight stench at all, thank God. But it's kind of like you had Renfield that was here, Abigail, which is here, and then movies like Lost Boys and Fright Night and Dusk Till Dawn up here. It just feels like it's not quite there. It's in the right track. It's going the right direction. It's not quite there for me. And a lot of that comes down to the character work for me. The film tries to kind of please everyone. So you have these horrible characters. They're all just awful people. Really awful. And every single bit of information that you slowly learn about them throughout the film just makes them worse and more unlikable. But the film tries its best to kind of give a redemption arc throughout the film where they'll learn from their past mistakes and get better and redeem themselves, and forgiveness is a kind of thing, and righting the wrongs of your past. I appreciate the attempt, but when the characters are this fucking despicable, I don't buy it. So it ends up getting to the point that when towards the end of the film, when some of the characters kind of do change, I didn't feel it at all. I completely disengaged. I was like, okay, righto. I don't buy this. These people are willing to kidnap and potentially kill a 12-year-old girl if her father doesn't pay $50 million. These people fucking suck. Straight up. That's all there is to it. So I like the fact that you have an attempt to give you some characters to latch onto, but then that's where the movie kind of loses its bite, if you will. It doesn't have enough balls. I really wish, and what I was hoping that this film would be that these people are all locked in and that Abigail would just fucking demolish all of them. It's not quite that. It tries to do some more things. If it had just been a really mean film where all the kills were just as gruesome and as gory and as horrible as each other, I would have loved this film. But the fact that it kind of just pulled punches a bit at some points, I was just like, you were so close. I mean, you think movies like Lost Boys or From Dusk Till Dawn, where people are just going left, right, and center, and it's just awesome. This one, as I said, it pulls its punches, and that's where it really falls short for me, because these characters are all set up to be killed off in the most horrible ways possible, because they are horrible people, and it just doesn't quite deliver on that, which I was really disappointed by. Also, as a side note, but I wouldn't even call this a side note actually, this is something that really bothered me, the marketing for this film. The trailers for Abigail have been every fucking where. Before YouTube videos, on Instagram, before, I've seen it 5 times before a film. And every single time that it appeared, I was just trying to look on my phone, but I felt like I kind of just got too much information from the trailers. And I thought that the trailer looked like it kind of spoiled the best parts of the movie. And to some extent, it did. So everyone knows that this is a ballerina vampire film. The film actually frames the little girl being a vampire as a mid-film twist, as a reveal. And the entire first half of the film is these characters. It's kind of like a crime movie, and then it's a mystery film as to what's happening to these characters. Why are some of them starting to disappear and die. But as an audience member, you already know that. So you're kind of just waiting for... It's a mystery film for the first half, where you already know the answer. And I understand that that can build suspense in some occasions, but for here, it just kind of feels like we're missing out on the good stuff, because I want to see these characters be killed. I don't want them to just show up dead. So I think if this film had have marketed itself as a crime film where they kidnap a little girl and they realise that they're being picked off one by something, I think that would have worked so much better in this film's favour, because if I hadn't have known that this was a vampire film, and if everyone hadn't have known that this is a vampire film, I think that this would have been an even bigger surprise. I would have been like, oh, so that's what we're doing. That's awesome. I think of it kind of like a From Dusk Till Dawn situation, where it's kind of just like, you know, the mid-film twist just comes out of nowhere. And it's not even... Dusk Till Dawn does it much better, because that film isn't a mystery. It's not relying on the characters catching up to speed with the audience. But this film does. So if this film just had have come out of nowhere and just appeared and you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. That's what this film is, I would have liked this even more. But the marketing and the trailers, it gives that away immediately. And it gives away some of Alisha Weir's best lines and some of the best kills, unfortunately. So, yeah, movie trailers, I hate them. I hate them. And before I give you my final, gripe with the film, I will say that this film is very similar to films like From Dusk Till Dawn and Black Swan. And it's unfair. This won't play into my overall score or recommendation because it's just not fair, but the similarities between those films and Abigail is so striking that it's hard not to compare it to those films, especially when those films are better. Like, there's no getting around the fact that this film is no Black Swan. It's unfair, but you kind of have to... You can't not see it. You have to acknowledge it, because you're like, my God, this is really similar to Black Swan. And finally, I think the way this film wraps up is pretty terrible, honestly. I really don't understand. One of the characters has a complete change of heart. I don't want to get too much into details, but it's just like, why is that character's motivation now? Why is it any different? This doesn't work. It just kind of feels like it was just an excuse to give the audience somewhat a triumphant ending. And the way it kind of ties back into those themes that I mentioned earlier and the things that were sprinkled throughout the film is trying to give them character and heart, it doesn't land at all. And the way it wraps up, it was really shitty, unfortunately. I just really didn't like it. With all that being said, I did enjoy this film overall. I don't think it's one of the best films of the year. I think it's a bit above average. I don't think that it's going to go down as a horror classic or anything like that, because it's so similar to other films that are better. But an amazing lead performance from Alisha Weir and incredible fight choreography with amazing gory scenes and comedy that surprisingly lands makes this one definitely worth checking out. It's just that the character work is not there, and the marketing kind of fucked the film over a bit, and the way it wraps up isn't very satisfying. But overall, I would say that Abigail is worth a watch. Guys, thanks so much for watching my review on Abigail. I don't want to sound so pessimistic and cynical. This film it just disappointed me. As much as I enjoyed it, it left me with a sour aftertaste. And as I said, I still recommend you check this one out. Just temper your expectations, because the early buzz is blown way out of proportion, at least in my opinion. Alright, that's it for this one. I will see you all later. Bye.